What is a lens? Write the question in your notes. Answer the question in your notes. And if you're in my chat, drop the answer that you come up with into the chat. What do you think a lens is? If you're a senior, you might have had English 3 or creative writing. You might already know this. What is a lens? Good answer, Adrian. Good answer, Riley. Good answers so far. Take about 1 more minute to contemplate. You don't have to have the right answer right now. I just want to get your brains popping. A little bit of popcorn moment. Cooking brains. What you telling your parents you're doing in class today? We're cooking brains. Autumn says the way we see things. What'd y'all come up with?
How you see things through someone's perspective.
Perspective, good word. Something you can see through, maybe predict. All right, so these are some solid answers. So what we're defining a lens as today, we understand that a lens is something that you look through. But depending on the lens, different features come into focus. So if you had to write a note, write the one with the all caps. Depending on the lens, different features come into greater focus. Who wears glasses? Got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we got like at least probably 10 people in the class wear glasses. Do your glasses help you to see things that are nearer or further away? Far, both, not sure, far. Further, further. Just about all of y'all are further away. So a couple people in second period were further, a couple people were closer. Some people were neither. They were a little bit of both, equalizing. Have you ever put on someone else's glasses? Now, this is for people who don't even wear glasses. What happens when you put on somebody else's glasses? Now, folks in the chat, what happens when you put on somebody else's glasses? Your head hurts, you feel dizzy. Yeah. It's blurry. You tell them you're blind. You feel weird. Yeah, because new things are coming into focus all at your eyeballs, right? So if you're using glasses to make things from farther away come into greater focus, you're using a lens to better observe things that are far away. If you're nearsighted, you're using it to see something closer to you. But either way, you're using a special lens to highlight things and make them easier to recognize that you wouldn't normally have, because that lens is a tool. Now, you can use any lens on the same piece of material, but the lens will bring out different parts of the material. With that being said, some lenses are more easily applied to others to a particular piece. So thinking about using a magnifying glass. If you use a magnifying glass, it's going to make dirt look bigger. It's going to make ants look bigger. It's going to make words look bigger. It's going to make leaves look bigger, right? So you can apply the lens to whatever. But if you do a magnifying glass on a building, it's not really going to help you that much, is it? Because the building's already big. So how you choose to apply your lens, as we're still talking about physical lenses, can change things. Who's ever heard of the phrase rose-tinted glasses? You look at things through rose-tinted glasses. Has anyone ever heard that phrase? What do we see here through rose-tinted glasses? It gets pretty. Are those colors soft or are those colors hard? Are those colors warm or are those colors cold? So when you look at something through rose-tinted glasses, everything looks more beautiful and soft and warm, right? So if I tell you, oh, he's no good for you, you're seeing him through rose-tinted glasses. What does that mean? So Carla says, if I say that he's no good for you, you're looking at it through rose-tinted glasses, what that means is you're only seeing like the beautiful, the good. Yeah, you're only seeing the good side. So if I tell you that so-and-so walks through life through rose-tinted glasses, I'm saying that the lens that they have in front of them makes everything look nicer. They see the nice parts. Now, what if you're cynical? What if you're like emo? Everything is through a harder lens, right? Everything's through a darker lens. So we see that lenses, when we want to talk about them, they could be either literal, like glasses, or they could be figurative lenses that we use to bring out elements that already exist. Can a lens make you see something that's not there? No, indeed. So the lens just brings out what's already there, but depending on the lens, you'll see more or less of it. Have we already used a lens in this class? Question for your notes. Take 1 minute and 30 seconds to write down this question and answer it. Have we already used a lens in Fine Arts Survey? Go ahead and answer it and drop your answer in the chat when you come up with it. Expound, Terrence. What lens have we used? Tell me more. Camera lenses, that's how we see these images. What do you think?
The time we were talking about proportion and the photograph at the bottom.
So we were looking at it through like a depth lens, like a proportional lens. We haven't used microscopes in this class, no. Carla, you got any lenses?
Probably whenever we look through like how things were like back then, so we put like a lens over us to see like how times were.
Wow. So Carla just said, whenever we look at how things were back then, whenever I give you context or geography, I'm showing you we call that a historical lens. And the historical lens helps us to understand the material better. Because if we only have our own point of view, and I show you an Egyptian pyramid, you're not going to be very impressed by that because they could build things like that, in, a couple of days now. But back then, we want to know how much work went into it. Watch me as I build another lens. I'm going to take my whiteboard out. And I'm going to draw a little picture. Draw a chicken, because I like to draw chickens for whatever reason. And I'm going to color him in a little bit, choose some unusual colors. Oh, I'm going to make him a rainbow chicken. Yes, rainbow chicken. Okay, so I've made rainbow chicken real quick, right? We can see rainbow chicken. Now I'm going to put a lens around him. So here's what's going to be in my lens. I'm going to have color, shape, line. I'm going to have form. I'm going to have value, texture, and what am I missing? What's the last one? Space. Okay. So I've put a lens around this bird. I want to think about this bird from an artistic lens. I'm using an artistic lens to look at this bird. So I want to be able to comment on this bird picture by its use of space, color. Is there a shape? How do I use line? Is there any form? No. Are there values of color and things like that? Yes. Does it have a sparkly texture? Is there space? So every time I ask you to look at something, thinking through your elements of art, I'm asking you to look at it through an artistic lens. Because that artistic lens that I put around it helps to inform you as to what to be looking for. You already do this, don't you? In your everyday life. You already know what interests you, what your aesthetic is, what you're drawn to. And you find it, you seek it out, you see it in things all around you. Calling it a lens just means that now we have the language that we can use together to talk about it in a meaningful way. Let me know if that makes sense, my people in the chat. Make any sense? Got some yeses. All right. So we've already used lenses in our everyday life and in this class. We've also used the structural lens. So think about Oedipus. We're not done with him yet. Is Oedipus a tragedy? Is Oedipus a tragedy? Okay, y'all think so? What makes it tragedy? What makes Oedipus a tragedy specifically? Violence doesn't make a tragedy, Riley. All right, got one answer in person. Okay, yeah. Death doesn't make something tragic, but the protagonist's having a fatal flaw, which Carla and Fallon and Yusuf are all recognizing. He was too prideful. What else do we need for it to qualify as a tragedy? We got a fatal flaw. Is there anything unique about the protagonist? Can the protagonist just be anybody? All right. Got to be generally a leader, high ranking, high profile. Now, does the fatal flaw only affect him? Oh, yeah. Fallon just said it affects the people below him, and he has to be a leader. So all these things, it's about a king. He has a fatal flaw. The fatal flaw causes the conflict. And then, yes, there's the problems at the end, the painful ending. There doesn't have to be death or violence. You could have a tragedy just because somebody, maybe their family leaves them. That's tragic if the other pieces are in play. Oedipus fits the structure of a tragedy. We just talked about the structure of tragedy to qualify Oedipus as a tragedy. The structure of the story, the rules that make up the story being a tragedy, all apply to Oedipus. Well, look at that. You just used the structural lens. You reached that conclusion through those guided questions. So now you've used an artistic lens. We've already used a structural lens because back when we were talking about these, remember when I said, is Medea a tragedy? Is Lysistrata a tragedy? No, Lysistrata is not a tragedy. So we were able to use the structure to decide that it is not a tragedy, it's a comedy. So you're looking at it through a structural lens to decide what it is. Structure means what it's built out of, right? How it's built and what it's built out of. So if the pieces are there and you've built a tragedy, structurally, it's a tragedy. So here's notes. I think you only got like 2 big note pages today. Structural lens. It focuses on the structure and ideas of a text or a history or an artwork. And that means it focuses on the meanings and interactions of the characters, the words, the plot, the figures of speech, even the symbols. And it looks for complex messages in the text and the artwork and the history. It analyzes how parallels are established to create unity. I'm telling the story, but I'm also commenting on the story some kind of way. It focuses on theme, tone, mood, and use of words. And just like when we decided if Oedipus was a tragedy, it can be compared against conventional structures. If we know what makes it a horror movie, if we know what makes it a rom-com, we can compare it to other rom-coms and see if that's what it is. So take a minute to write these notes down because you're going to want to use this structural lens in the future. Don't worry, we're going to practice this. I'm not going to leave you hanging out to dry. Okay, let's do a little practice. So here's your do now. Think about the tortoise and the hare. Consider the plot points, the characters, and the message. So while you're thinking about it, I want you to consider specifically the things that make it up, the things that go into the structure of the story, right? The plot points, the characters, and the message of the story. Reflect on the structure using the structural lens. So once you're thinking about it and considering these specific elements, I want you to think based on how those things go together, what they do as a structure. And then you're going to write 5 notes about the story from your observations and put them in the question lens check 1, which I've just opened up on Google Classroom. So you're going to go into lens check 1 on Google Classroom. These instructions are already there. But to help you out, I'm going to put this list of questions up here. You need to pick 5 notes. There's about 20 questions here. You can pick 5 questions to answer, and that's your assignment. But just 5 notes about the structure of the tortoise and the hare. If you don't know the story, do a quick lookup. Access it now. I'm going to give you all about 5 minutes to complete this. We still got a little ground to cover, some fun stuff to do. We got another couple of activities. No profiles today. And do be aware, I'm not asking for your review of the tortoise or the hare or your thoughts on the tortoise or the hare. I want 5 notes structurally, through a structural lens. All right, got some answers already. Good answers from Yusuf and Riley so far. Keep them coming, class. Take about 3 more minutes. And remember, you don't have to overthink this. This really is easy, quick question and answer. I don't need a thesis. We aren't there yet. Forgot about the tortoise and the hare. About 2 more minutes. Don't rush, but do be expedient. Don't dwell too long on any one moment. Now they're coming in. All right, while the last few folks drop theirs into the answers, thank you all for those of you who have been participating. Let's just go down the line and answer a few of these questions. Who are the characters? What's the story called? There you go. What do they represent? Different qualities of like how big or how fast or how slow or whatever somebody is. Maybe they represent different types of people. What event specifically takes place? Like what's the whole thing centered around? A race. What's the situation that starts the race? Like does somebody challenge another person? Yeah, you don't just race for no reason. There was a challenge in there. What's the complication? Like what's the conflict? Yeah, there's like, they're not equal on equal footing, are they? What's the climax in the plot? Yeah, probably so, either the nap or the tortoise overtaking him. What's the resolution of the problem? Tortoise wins, he's not a turtle because he's not amphibious. Do any reversals take place? Does anything unexpected happen, or does the tide change at some point? I would say that happens in a big way, right? That's the whole like climax of the show is, yeah. Do the plot and character traits say something about the story or the world? They don't? the moral comes through, right? So we know there's a moral, and a lot of y'all quoted it, slow and steady wins the race. So what type of story is this? Some of you actually had this answer in your question, and I love it. It starts with an F. It is fiction, but what is it specifically? What genre of fiction is it? Starts with an F, and it's not fiction or fairy tale. Thank you, Delilah and Terrence. It's a fable, which has a moral to it.